So about 20 years ago, when my wife and I first started youth ministry, and the youth movement that we led in the Northwest sort of took off. And those were incredible years because we saw truly amazing, like revival, the whole thing. We were knee deep, neck deep in revival for about 18 years. And our little youth group went from about 36 kids to several thousand. And we were in the middle of a journey of trying to learn how to be pastors. And we were young and we were idealistic. And along comes a lady that we had heard about and that we knew about and really began to speak into our life. She's someone who, I know many of you are going to know her already, so she doesn't need a big introduction for some of you, but if you don't know her, I can't go anywhere in the world in any church, where I can't walk through a church and there's 10, 15, 20 people who haven't been impacted by this woman's ministry. She actually came into our life, came and spoke for us and began to speak into our life right at a very strategic time. And someone that not only has given us resources, but someone who's just been a mentor and a friend. Around the world, she is known as one of the great equippers, great youth pastors. I remember one day Ministry Today magazine came out, and I was sitting in my office and I subscribed, and I remember the magazine came to my desk, and on the front was her picture, and it said America's Youth Pastor. And I have to tell you, it's the truth. She has trained more youth ministry workers in America than almost any other institution in the last 50 years. She has trained, there are lead pastors, senior pastors, youth pastors, worship pastors all over America that have sat in her cadre, her group, in her living room where she just trains and she just ministers. And truly somebody that we admire. Listen, Jeanne Mayo does not need an introduction for many of you, but I'll tell you, this lady has been pouring into us for over 20 years. She's a part of this house. And I'd like you to do me a favor this morning. We have to give honor where honor is due. This is the real thing, okay? So we're so excited to have Pastor Jeanne Mayo with us this morning. Church, will you please stand to your feet? Will you clap crazy loud for Pastor Jeanne Mayo as she comes to bring the word this morning?
You are a rowdier crowd than the earlier service. Before you sit down, turn around to your neighbor and say, "Rowdy is good, stay that way." Rowdy, you're amazing. This place has been so nice to me. I'm swallowing my cough drop. I'm sure you can't tell. This place has been Hi, online. This place has been so good to me. It made me think of this fun old story. I doubt that it's true. Who cares, you know? At least I don't lie like many preachers. But anyway, I did not just say that. All right. Billy Graham comes to town, and of course they want to give him great hospitality. So when you're Billy Graham, they show up at the airport in a limo. And so don't worry, you didn't rent a limo to get me. Thank God. I've had that happen a couple of times, and it was a little nerve-wracking. But he gets in the limo, and he says to the young kid driving, "Listen, I have fulfilled many of my life's ambitions, but I have a secret desire to drive a limo once. Would you mind trading seats with me and let me drive this thing?" Sure. What are you going to say to Billy Graham? Yeah, come up, sir. So he gets in, and then Billy Graham apparently did in the story, fact or fiction, what, all godly people do occasionally. His right foot on the accelerator got a little heavy. Now, all of you who are condemning me because you never speed, get a life, is what I want to say to you. But anyway, so then supposedly the cop car, the lights come on and back, and we all get saved when those lights come on. Matter of fact, I get saved even when I see the cop car behind me. I just think he just turned where I turned, they're after me, you know. So Cop comes up, but it's a young cop. He's only been on the beat for a couple of weeks. He's a little inexperienced. He pulls over Billy Graham, so Billy Graham takes the license out to show him. He hears the voice, which all of us would recognize. So then he gets really nervous, and he goes back to his cop car, and he calls headquarters for some help. And when he got real nervous, he would do what many of us do. He would kind of stammer and stuff. So he calls the guy at headquarters. I pulled over somebody very, very important. And the guy on the other side is trying to help the newbie, and he said, okay, it's going to be okay. I'll walk you through. Did you pull over, the mayor of the city? But more important than the mayor. Okay. You pull over the governor of the state. More. The more nervous he got, the more he couldn't get words out. And he said, more important than the governor? I know the president's not in town, or I would have read the tweet. And I thought that was funny. Doug liked it. Yeah. Never mind. All comments. I wouldn't think of saying anything on anything right now. Okay. So, we're all moving to Canada. But no, we're not. I'm just kidding. Don't send me ugly responses on that. So, anyway, he said, well, the president hasn't come in. Is it a senator, a legislator? And he goes, but more important. And then finally, the guy on the other end is a little frustrated. He said, now, whatever his name is, Rob or something, you've got to control yourself. I cannot help you until you're able to enunciate well enough to tell me who you pulled over. So the poor cop, he's struggling, but he just does the deep breathing, does everything to try to calm the nerves. And then he said, I think it's God. And he said, God? And he said, because Billy Graham is his chauffeur. Yeah. And that's how you guys have treated me. I felt like Billy Graham was my chauffeur. Better than Billy Graham, Doug and Donna. I said this in the first service, and you'll probably figure this out about me after you hear point 4 of the message. I am not political. I've been in ministry. If I told you how many years, you'd either think I'm old, or you'd think, gosh darn, she takes good vitamins. So let's leave it all alone. Long time. And I've known them for not that long, but gosh, I don't say things to be nice just to be nice to people. And I want you to know, and I'm sure you as a church know it, but if doing full-time ministry for 52 years, that's how long, I just let it out, I look good for that, huh? For that? I mean, come on, work with me here. Didn't take all those vitamins for no reason, but I don't say things to be nice, but I'll tell you what, you have very rare gifts for pastors because, wait a minute, so you know what you're clapping a little bit more about. Not many people can survive success and not believe it themselves. And the heritage of this church is so rich. And I just celebrate. And of course, I'm crazy about Kaylee. She's done the cadre with me. But let's just not go down the drill on how wonderful everybody is. But really, one time for real, would you just scream and yell for Don and for Doug and Donna Lassett? We love you. We love you. Gosh, we love you. Hey, I don't want to carry him home with me, Most of my books have sold out, but this is the one you may want to stop and get for a Christmas gift or give it to yourself. I went through 4 decades of message notes, and I'm known for what's called Jeanneisms, the one-liners. Many of them from other people. From me, I divided it by 50 topics, and so it's out there near the coffee if you're interested in that. It makes a great table gift or whatever. I'm going to talk to you about something that is a signature topic for me. Everybody who's walked with God for a while, and especially those of us that have the privilege of doing ministry, you come to have themes that are just you, that anybody who's lived up close to you, been in your ministry and home church, would know from you. And I'm coming to one of those today, talking about knowing the character of God. Now I'll give you the title. I'm calling it The Ultimate Pursuit. And there's this haunting scripture that won't even be on the screen. It's Psalms 103, verse 7, that says, the children of Israel knew God's acts, but Moses, who was called a friend of God, knew God's ways. Psalms 103, verse 7. And let me unpack that for a minute. There's several people in this room that know Jeanne Mayo's acts by now. The girls that were at that amazing, beautiful conference. So awesome. You would know. You think, well, she'll probably make us laugh at the beginning, and then she'll, at some point, try to be really relevant and practical, and then she's probably going to go after our heart a little bit at the end. Yeah, you know some of my actions. But really, the only people who know my ways in this room, because they know me, would be these two and now Kaylee. Because when you know a person's acts, you just know what they do. Anybody can know their acts. But when you know somebody's ways, you know their character. I think God has a lot of fair weather friends. A lot of people in the church world today who know his acts, know that Jesus heals, saves, answers prayer according to his will, blah, blah, blah. But the sad tragedy is, I think many people in church circles today make him more of a Santa Claus in the sky than a real father. 6 years ago, my husband, greatest man I ever knew, pastored with him the majority of the run, senior pastor, came down. Well, first of all, I had a stroke, and it kicked him into a condition I'd never heard of, a horrendous form of dementia called Lewy body. And then, so it went downhill very, very fast. I was fortunate to keep him in the house, and I hired a caregiver during the day, and then cared for him when I wasn't on the road in night and all through the night. And got to keep him at home for 3 years. He forgot who his adult sons were. He didn't recognize them anymore. Then he forgot who I was. Then he forgot how to make words. Wasn't pretty. He passed away 3 years ago. Now, if I had $1 for every prayer of faith that I stood, because I know God is the healer. I got it. That's part of his character. He's a healer. And if I had $1 for every time I quoted a healing scripture, I'd have my house paid for. Matter of fact, I probably made up new scriptures. Because, after you quote the same ones 1,000 times, let's put some variety in this thing. I think Jesus has a sense of humor. Some of you have a boring God. So I do not have a boring God. I have a very feisty God, and we just have fun. Where's Kayla? Let me look at her. See, she's fine. I knew she would. And you're good enough for her. Good for you. I'm not predicting anything. Just friends. 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 I'm not predicting anything. Friends. 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 Yeah, get me out of here. All right. I have no idea how. Anyway, of course, it was horrendous when the trajectory of the airplane kept going down. And I was, privileged to, I'd gone to the kitchen. I missed his last breath, which forever felt guilty over blah, blah, blah. Away for about 2 minutes. And then it happened. And spare me all the stories about the angels don't take them until you're gone so you don't cry. Spare me all those stories. We have the dumbest things we say to people when they're bereaved. Matter of fact, we just have dumb things we say to people. You know what TRT is, don't you? Typical religious talk. I'm secretly looking at you going, you're precious. So they would tell me all this stuff. Anyway, but people after that said over and over to me, Jeanne, is it difficult to trust anymore? Because, gosh, I believe in healing. I've been healed. And how could this possibly be? And you say, the Lord didn't send the Lewy body, but he obviously could have intervened and stopped it. You don't have to be too smart to figure out that. But here's the thing that keeps me in the game, still does today. I think true faith is trusting the Word of God and the character of God, even when sometimes you cannot understand your circumstances. Yeah, that's good. There aren't easy answers for that. And we say to ourselves, we'll get our answers in heaven, but many of the questions we have, we probably won't even bother to ask again. That one I'll probably ask. A bunch of them I'll let go. But how can I hold on? It's because I knew he's just in all his ways and kind in all his doings. Even when my circumstances don't appear just. Come on, Lord, if this is how you reward your friends, hate to see how you take care of your enemies. He's a father who never lets the wrong. He was a father even through all of the hideous stuff at the end. Can I explain that? No, but that's what his character is. He is a healer, even if that healing came on the other side of eternity. And if you got trouble swallowing that, then you'll get cynical over way less than that. But I'm just saying, you see, when you know a person's character, you can trust them even when for that moment somebody tells you something about them and you go, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. If somebody told me while I was traveling that Sam was seen coming out of a bar and he had a beautiful woman on his arm, you know what? To other people, that would be a bad setup. To me, it would be, he got a call. Somebody needed to be rescued out. He was holding the woman up to get her to the car to drive her home because I knew him. He wasn't going to two-time me. And so what I'm saying is, when you begin to study God's character, and let me just say, if you do nothing out of this time together, but start a Character of God notebook. And you can grab your iPad, start it there, or on your laptop, or if you want to go old-timey, I like paper. Do you even know what paper is? Something some people have never seen. Go by Walmart or Target on the way home and get a 3-ring binder. Just make it something you can add to easily because you serve a big God. And just start making character of God. What his joy, his love, he's a father, he's omniscient, he's omnipresent, he's jealous, the right kind of jealous. He's secure, he's a rock that is higher than on and on the list goes. And you know what trait you come after first? The one you most need right now. And then you pull up gateway.com on your internet and you Google search in the Bible that word or any words that apply. And don't write them all down. Gosh, don't make it hard. You won't keep doing it. Just write the key phrases out of the verses that stand out. And then you look around and you say, where do I see that aspect of God's character in real 24/7 life? Then when you hit worship, and aren't you kind of bitter when you hear these guys sing? I wanted your voice to be not as good. It's bad enough that she sings like that. And then you, and you're both good looking. And so your talent is, anyway, don't get me going. I can get myself in trouble again. And the whole stink, a lot of you are anointed. Just really. And you wear great shoes. Other than that, I haven't noticed a thing. All right. So I have no idea why I got on that. What did that have to... Hey, when you, again, know somebody's character, you can trust them past the physical, even when you don't get it. And so again, I'm going to unpack for you what's helped me to know his character. Number one, if you want to know God's character, which I think is the ultimate pursuit in high online people, you'd like their shoes too. Seek his face and not his hand. Say your m's a little louder as you're writing. See, you have to double your volume underneath the mask, all right? Think, oh, nobody's there. Seek his face, not his hand. Now, let me give you context for this. Psalms 119, verse 58 says, I have sought your face, O God, with all my heart. Your face. Your face. And then Psalms 119, 135, make your face to shine upon your servant. See, when you seek a person's hand, you seek what they can do for you. But when you seek their face, you seek their pleasure. Beggars seek hands. Lovers seek faces. Sons and daughters seek faces. Have you ever tried listening to your own prayers? Because if you're like me sometimes, not even meaning to, and there's nothing wrong with asking God for something, because he loves to give us good gifts. So please don't get this all out of line. I'm just saying too often our focus in our relationship is give me, give me, give me, and not enough, I want to know you. And you know what? That prayer, I want to know you, God, can become frustrating unless you have a tool like starting a Character of God notebook that helps you do something that leads you in that direction. And then when you're in worship, you can be worshiping him for that attribute. So your worship doesn't get old because, and you say, how long do I stick on an attribute? Until you're ready to be done. Then go to another one. Don't stay on one attribute so long till you milk it all the way. You can go back in and fill in other things as you see, and life will teach you things. I'm in the middle of something now that, gosh, I'm learning new things. And I'm so glad, again, that I know in this era that he's my defender. And you know what? I'm leaning hard on that because that's true. But I'm glad that reality became more than just a nice word in a song I sing. I'm glad I meditated on it. I rolled it around. I've written in journal times when that aspect came to the top. Number two, seek God if you want to know his character with an attitude of, yes, Lord, even before he asks the question. Even before he asks the question. Yes, Lord. Now, if you're taking notes, just appease me. Right? You don't have to make it great big. Somewhere like you're writing a little note to God. Dear God, dear Heavenly Father, dear big guy in the sky, whatever you call it. Just dear. And then leave a little bit of room and then sign it, lovingly, whatever. And then in the middle of that note where you left room for the body of the note, write, and I know it's all small, but If I had you up here, I'd say, write it great big, right in the middle of that body, yes. Matter of fact, put an exclamation point after yes. This point is saying in your heart, Jesus, fill in anything you want into that. The answer is already yes. Yes. Now, if you don't know God's character, you're going to have trouble with that. Because if you don't know that he's a great father and nothing but good and always out for what is ultimately best for you, let me tell you what you're thinking right now. Shoot, I'm not doing that. If you're single, you're thinking, he's going to want me to marry somebody who is ugly. I'm not saying yes. Or move to outer Mongolia. Where do you not want to move if you live in Colorado? Iowa? I owe the world an apology. I like Iowa, though. Iowa, if you're from Iowa, great state. All right. I lived in Nebraska, so leave everybody alone here. All right. Don't now. Live in Atlanta now. But what I'm saying is, if you don't know God's character, you assume he will make you do something bad. Listen, my kids are adults now. But if when they were little, they'd come up to me and said, dearest mother, we just want to be close to you. And so ask anything that you would. And our answer will be yes. Well, number one, I would have fainted. They would have had to wait to get me off the floor. And I would have said, did you go out drinking? And I didn't know it. And really, they didn't, but yeah. But the deal is, a parent would never respond to that kind of open-hearted, I want to please you, by asking anything except something that will bring happiness and joy ultimately to them. So you're safe to say, hey, Jesus, I'm in. And you know what? There may be some turns of the road. I'm living one of those now that you don't predict. And obviously none of us predicted COVID, but I've had some other turns in the road. But I'm in. You don't have to ask permission. Last time I checked, God usually doesn't anyway. So you might as well be, never mind. The third, Kai, come help, will you? All right, Kai and I have become friends. Everybody clap for Kai. He's Doug and Donna's son. Okay, I don't have any germs. You always stand so far away from me. Yeah, I'm not weird. Okay, do you mind holding that? Okay, so, how's it feel to be, monitors right there. No offense. That's money, buddy. Obviously, you haven't had to raise the butt. Kai, look at your poor, pitiful parents down there. Haven't raised money on you. One, just because that was my last hit, I promise. All right, Kai, why are you shaking water all over your parents? Beautifully painted. There's a monitor. Did you not shower, son? I don't know. Why? Go ahead.
Because you hit the water bottle.
Say it a little louder, sir.
Because you hit me.
He's promised me he's not going to date till 54. So, girls, stay away. Not really. I'm kidding. 53. That's what we all say. When life bumps us, circumstantially or people, and anger spills out of us, hurt spills out of us, fear spills out of us, human nature, it's very normal, goes back to blame the person or the circumstance that bumped it out. But hear me, no circumstance or person, however grievous it is, can bump anything out of the glass of your life, the bottle of your life, that was not already in there to begin with. You can clap over that, especially for Kai. Thank you. So that's the point. Seek God. with an honest heart when you're bumped. And you know what? Life bumps all of us. It doesn't have to even be a tragedy. Certainly, a tragedy can deeply bump us. And I'm not saying don't admit the emotions that are there: hurt, anger, frustration. Gosh, I have them all. I have them all. But the reality is, at some point, you have to decide if you're a victim or a victor. And internally, nobody can ultimately make that decision for you. Through very difficult, traumatic times, that takes longer. That takes talking to some people you trust. You don't just spin out of big stuff. But oftentimes, some of the hurts and bumps, they're not nearly that big. But they come to us every day of our life. And here's the sad thing for me. I don't even know what's in the glass of my life sometimes, whatever's real down there, until something bumps me. And I've heard myself say to myself the last 4 months, I thought I had stronger faith than that. Because I feel fear. I feel lots of stuff. I love Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see, in my language, they shall know God. The pure in heart. But here's the problem. And David the psalmist used it. He said, listen, Psalms 19:12. He said, Lord, guard me from hidden faults. And First Peter talks about it too. We can't even know everything in our heart. But boy, when the glass of our life gets bumped, what a gift. Now, we don't like it. But instead of spending all your energy getting mad at the circumstances or the person that bumped it, which again is legal. So don't you for 1 minute hear me say that, like in my case, my husband dies and I'm up the next morning singing glory to God in the highest. I mean, weird, no offense, I shouldn't have said weird people, but they were weird. They said such comforting lines like, you had had Sam so many years in marriage, God got jealous of you and finally decided to promote him to heaven so he could have him to himself. Really? I could make all sorts of comments on that. I won't even go there because I'm in Colorado. So you didn't think that was funny. I did. Okay. Last of all, and I like Colorado, by the way. By the way, if you're watching online, Doug has assured me that there are no religious spirits in this church. If you're watching online and you're a little religious, that's code language for you get angry over things real easy. And you're probably still reading from a very original Bible, and you think everybody who reads anything without these or thous are not reading a real Bible. You would do best to go away. Just go away. I don't mean that ugly. But this last point's going to bother you, okay? Can you see why I stayed in youth ministry? All right. Yeah. Adults, no offense. At least teenagers cuss me out to my face. You adults, you smile on the way out the door, and then you have us for fried meat over dinner in the name of a prayer request. But anyway, all right. Leave me with college kids and teenagers. Point 4, a word that's used in the Bible. If you want to really know God, circumcise your heart. And that's a strong word, but it's used in the Bible, and that's why I use it here. That exact phrase, Deuteronomy 10:16, circumcise your heart and stiffen your neck no more. Now, why would God ever choose such a dramatically awkward term to be in Old Testament times a note of intimacy between him and a young baby male? It's still done for many young men in the hospitals yet today. Why would he choose that term. And let me take you back to Genesis 17, and I'll give you the story, Jeannie's language, certainly. Whatever. Probably didn't take place just like this. Abraham is told by God to show up at the mountain, and he's going to give him a symbol of intimacy between the two of them. So good old Abe shows up at the mountain, got him here ready for and God says, tomorrow, do I sound like a, tomorrow, no, not. Tomorrow, come back, and I'm going to give you a token of intimacy between you and me. Okay. So Abe goes home to Sarah. Gosh, big deal, wifey. God, Jehovah's going to give me a token of intimacy. Why didn't he get it? He told me to come back tomorrow. Come to the mountain. Got it. What's the token? Don't know. So goes back, standing there. God, I'm here, ready for the token of intimacy between you and me. And then God says, the token, however he said it, my son is I won't yell it real loud, circumcision. And Abe's probably down there going, oh, great. What's whatever you just said? So then God probably leaned over from heaven and probably went, ooh. Nice, somebody said. That was a male voice, yeah. Abe probably said, got any other tokens? Why would God choose that as a symbol? But it perhaps was, if you're a medical professional, you know this already. Why are young male babies, not all, but some circumcised even now? Because the skin that is removed from that very personal place is excess skin. And that excess skin is a potential breeding ground for future infection. So when God says circumcise your heart, he's saying he's not saying just get rid of all the sin in your life. He says, if you really want to know me, stop asking what's wrong with everything and occasionally say, what's right with it? Or is that a potential breeding ground for spiritual infection? Nothing wrong with watching TV, but I can tell you sometimes I say to myself, funny, I can watch stupid shows about midgets, or little people, I'm sorry, wrong term, I apologize, for real, I really do. I'm fascinated with those shows. I love it. Matter of fact, I'm fascinated with some ones that you go, really? You know? Moving right along, I'm on an Alaska show right now, how they survive in Alaska. But I eventually go, wait a minute. How come I can spend 45 minutes watching this and time goes fast? But I think I need to get an extra medal from heaven if I spend an extra 45 in the Word. So maybe I need to circumcise, not stop watching TV, just bring it back. Sports, I love sports. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, but whoa. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? And so I'm just saying to you, if you really want to know God, it's not a matter of saying, I don't want to break his commandments. Certainly that too, but I think sometimes when we're close to him, we can break his heart before we break his commandments. See, I did things for Sam not because they were against him. He never would. Other people wouldn't have even known those nuances. But when that face changed a little bit, I didn't want to hurt him. How do you do with God the Father? Are you still asking what's wrong with this? Because if you are, you're not very far along in your walk. And don't make some big legalistic list. That's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about having a heart that wants to please him. He's a dad. Best dad in the universe. Do I get everything that's going on in this world or in my life or your life? No. But he's still my dad. Let me end with a cool story, true one, written by a dad. They were taking their middle son to college. And he wrote this, because it gives us such a picture of that father heart of God. And like I said, that was the first one. Study first the attribute you most need now. And if it doesn't feel good, you switch tomorrow. He says, nearly a year ago, Peg and I had a really tough week. Wednesday night, our son Michael slept downstairs in his room where kids belong, and we slept upstairs in ours, where moms and dads belong. Thursday night, we were 350 miles away, and he was in Hampton in 325, and we were in 323. We had connecting hotel rooms, left the door, open in between, and we laughed and talked until late that night when we fell asleep. Friday night, 700 miles away from home. And he was in room 247 in another hotel, and we were, not that far away, 239, no big deal. Still seemed together. Then Saturday night, we'd arrived at the university. And our son Michael was in the freshman dorm. We'd helped him move in. And we were still in room 239 in the hotel. Sunday night. My wife and I, we were back home. But our son was 700 miles away in Chapman, dorm 309. Now look, we'd been through this before. Our older son, Robert Jr., gone away to university. We put ourselves back together largely because after he graduated, he married and moved only a few miles away from us. But we thought we handled separation pretty well. But man, this time we came away so lonely as his parents. So blue. Oh, our hearts were filled with all sorts of pride and the great young man he was. Our minds were filled with memories from tricycles to commencements. Deep down yet inside, there just was an aching loneliness. Yeah, people told us all the time when we commented on it, you still got 3 kids at home. There's still plenty of noise around the house, plenty of ball games to go to, plenty of responsibilities, plenty of laughter, plenty of family meals, plenty of everything except not plenty of Michaels. And in parental math, 5 minus 1 just never equals plenty. So I was thinking about the Father heart of God and how he loves us. And I was sure that, gosh, God still got plenty of children, plenty of doctors and architects and singers and speakers and candlestick makers, plenty of everybody, except not plenty of you. And all of those people in the universe put together, this is a remarkable heart of a real dad, can never take your place. There will always be an empty spot in his Father's heart and a vacant chair at the family table when you have distanced a bit from him and you're not all the way at home. So, you know what? If you showed up for church this morning, and it just seems like recently, God's been pressing in a little bit on you. You know, or maybe felt further away than what you wanted to feel, whatever. Try to give him a break. Because if you understand the Father heart of God, maybe you've been so busy that from his Father's heart to you, he's been missing you so much recently, he can hardly stand it. Worship team, come. There's the sweet presence of Jesus Christ here now. And those of you who came this morning is a love note from the greatest dad in the universe saying, I'm lonely for you. Not that you've done something bad. If you haven't come to a relationship with Christ, this morning would be a great morning. Open up your heart and say, come in, Jesus. But to all of you, I don't know the knocks life has given you. For some of them, they've been horrendous. All I'm saying is, gosh, sorry for all the idiots in the world that have tried to make it explainable when it wasn't. God's not doing that. He's a dad. And all he wants to do is hold you and say, I love you. I'm going to read the 4 ways that we can know God. And when you hit 1 or 2 that most resonate with you, I want you to kind of stand where you stand if you're there. And if you're home, just, you'll know in your heart. Don't have to seek his face, not his hand. Seek him with an attitude of, yes, Lord. Even seek him when you're bumped, and circumcise your heart. No questions asked. And if that's you in the audience, just stand when you hit 1, that's you. Seek his face more often. Not quite so often his hand. Stand if that's you. Number 2, seek him with an attitude of, yes, Lord. And know that he's so trustworthy even before he asks the question. You don't have to be afraid of what obedience will call you to do. Number 3, seek God with a super honest heart when you get bumped, and we all get bumped. And I'm getting bumped right now. So my heart hand is up. I'm getting bumped. And then last of all, whatever it means to you, it's all different stuff. You say it, Lord, I want to circumcise my heart a little bit more. Not a matter of doing something wrong, but I want to stop, not to be a legalist, but to say, I want to please you so much that I want to hear the small, still whispers that just make me a little closer to you. And last of all, and if you're watching online, and nobody's gonna, no, you're not bad if you don't raise your hand. Those of you in the audience and online that will give a try, even if you do it one day and then forget it, to starting, choose any attribute you want, to make some sort of a character of God notebook. Can you raise your hand? That's game changing if you'll do that. Thanks so much. Even if you do it one day, a bunch of you are scared to raise your hands because you're going, I'll stop. I don't care if you stop. Do it one day. It's game changing because you can know God's character. God's character will carry you through storms when nothing else will. Let me say that one more time. God's character will carry you through storms when nothing else will. What's the ending song we chose? It was good. Sing it from your heart. I know you're there. I know we sing ending songs all the time, but can you do Jesus and yourself a favor? Can you for a moment sing it from your gut, not just your mouth behind your little face mask? And let's make these last couple of moments encounter. Do you hear that? Encounter with the living God. I want a couple of you to find me in heaven. See, I was there that morning you did that message, and I changed something in my life because of something. Give the Lord a round of applause, will you? We honor you, Jesus. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy. In Jesus' name.
Great